This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option here on 365 Sports. Jack, should I have come up like that on that camera angle?
Okay, Paul,
like,
messed up.
like slithered up like a snake. It's Halloween, and I can just do that. But Royden Ogletree back after a couple weeks. He was in Scotland.
Scotland? No, yeah.
Did you get any good scotch?
No, you know what's funny is my wife hates whiskey, so...
Well, I mean, what does that matter?
Yeah, exactly. Well, look,
she's
my wife, and I couldn't...
So does my wife, and you know what she does? She watches me drink it.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. We only had one more day. There I am. We only had one more day left, and there was this thing called the Scotch Whiskey Experience, and it was like, we're going to take you through through history and time, or history in memoriam of... time in memoriam, rather, of whiskey throughout Scotland. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And no, we're not. So we didn't. And
okay.
Anybody who's married will understand that sentence very well.
Yeah, no, I get that. To me, when we're on vacation, there's a trade-off. There's a bit of this and that, for...
Oh, trust me, we took more pictures than I think I've ever taken in my entire life.
Yeah, so there's trade-off.
Yeah.
We agree on things. And then there are things that each of us have to sit and muscle through.
Oh yeah. Well, look, the trade-off is that there was a pub literally every 2 feet.
Well, you could have just asked for a scotch there.
I did a couple of times.
Okay.
And so
you did get some.
I did get some at a pub, but as far as just inundating myself with flavors throughout Scottish history, no, I didn't.
No,
do that.
I would have done.
I
but
wish.
Someone who I think could use a scotch is Dabo Swinney.
He seems like a teetotaler to me.
He probably is. And Tyler, this is well known now, but Tyler from Spartanburg called his radio show last night and
can't wait for that Twitter handle to be made.
Asked what I will say is a D-bag question. I will defend Dabo Swinney in that insofar as the question he asked was it was a jerk question. You make this much money. Basically, to boil it down, you're making $11.5 million. You're the second highest paid coach in college football. You need to do better than 4-4. Okay, look, man. Everybody in your fan base agrees with that. Mm-hmm. There's a way to ask it that is better. You can say, what's been the difference the last 3 years as we started to dip? But then Dabo Swinney made the mistake. And there are a lot of people at fault here. The call screener, the host for letting this guy go on this long.
This is your old school radio host coming in here.
And I can tell you, look, I know all this stuff because this was my life. Garrett is sitting behind me eating lunch right now. He knows exactly how I feel about the caller, which is only slightly better than I feel about Dabo Swinney.
Let's dig into that, Paul. Talk to me. I'm your therapist.
Yeah.
What did Dabo Swinney do to hurt you?
He exists.
Yeah.
No, but what Dabo did is a case in narcissism that I cannot even begin to talk about unless I was Carl freaking Jung. Okay? When you go off on, hey, all you have to say, and everything that he said is right. None of this great stuff happened before Dabo Swinney was around. But saying that you owe me appreciation is the apex of narcissism, because that's not how sports works. Sports is about today, not about yesterday. It's great that you did all those things, and he's right, and maybe he doesn't deserve all the smoke he's getting from the fans, but also $11.5 million buys you,
He's the highest paid employee in the state, right?
Yeah, he's the highest paid employee in the state of South Carolina. Yeah. He makes way more than Tyler from Spartanburg. He's also, compared to Tyler from Spartanburg, won at life.
Yeah.
He's won at life. Tyler is the guy who's calling him. Tyler's only bullet is that call, which, again, he could have said, made a couple quick jokes and moved on and said that. But instead, he launched into a 5-minute diatribe about why the fans should be appreciating him more and appreciating what they've done more. One, that Tyler doesn't speak for all the fans. He just speaks for a loud, probably minority right now. I think most of the fans at Clemson don't want Dabo gone. They know. But you do not. He lowered himself to the level of the caller. And he's been doing this long enough that he should know the rule of call-in radio shows, which is you have to expect that every call is going to be terrible. You cannot expect the most learned, beautiful-minded individuals to call up and go, Coach, I respect everything you've ever done here.
Yeah.
I have some questions about the way you've been
Formation,
performing
yeah.
and from performing, and I'm just curious as to what the differences are between the glory years and today. And please, I mean, I'm not criticizing you as a man or a human being, but move on. They're not all like that. There are people. Here's the only thing you need to know how to do to call into a radio show. Work the mother effing phone. That's the only thing you have to do. The only thing you have to know how to do is work the phone.
Are you sure they even know how to do that?
So yes, so most radio callers, most of them, I'm not saying all, but a large quantity of them are just absolute wall-banging morons who barely know how to breathe. So when you do that, you cannot lower yourself like I'm doing right now to them because that's what it is. They're not you. They're
You
not
might as well
you.
be saying like the ninth circle of hell is reserved for radio phone-in callers.
You have no idea what I've been through, Royden.
It
You
seems
have
like a lot.
no idea.
Are you a little worked up?
I'm a little worked up, yes. Mostly because here's the thing, and I'm doing it. We're giving Tyler from Spartanburg all this play, and he is a member of a group of people that I wholesale despise, and I was in that business.
Well, look, you wouldn't have any second thoughts if like Dabo Swinney didn't come down with like righteous indignation about how the season's going, and it's like
no, I would have been like I would have laughed at it because I'd like here you go.
But
Because
he
it
ate the
is.
trash, man.
Yeah, he did.
He ate the trash, and like, look, the fact that you allow call-in radio callers into a coach's show in the first place is crazy. But like,
But if you're going to, you need to be like you
Jump
need to,
button.
Yeah, well, okay, it's like riding on a jet ski. You got to put your life preserver on, man. If you fly off and drown and you didn't have your life preserver on, it's your fault.
just go for it, man. I think that like this season is really getting to Dabo Swinney because look, they've had, like he said, and he's not wrong, but it is. Look, douchey to be like,
Yeah.
we've been awesome forever, like appreciate our awesomeness. Mm-hmm. They've been bad, like by their standards. They've been okay for a normal college football team, but you're now Clemson. That is the brand. You're on every ESPN show, open. You have now, the logo is now branded into people's minds when it comes to one of the powerhouses in college football. Dabo Swinney has now inserted himself into being a larger-than-life college football personality. People go to him to seem to care, what he has to say on certain issues, which I'll never understand why we ask coaches about that. But like, he has now inserted himself into conversations that 20 years ago you would never be asking a Clemson head coach about.
Yeah.
And he does make $11.5 million. Like the what have you done for me lately does get a little old when it comes to college football because it is cyclical for most programs not named Alabama and now I guess Georgia. But even Georgia could like Kirby Smart could fall off in like 5 years and we'd be like, well, what's going on with Georgia? It happens, man. Other coaches have now caught up to him, including your Florida State Seminoles. So like I just eating the trash on this caller really showed me that it's not going well.
No,
for them. And he doesn't know how to handle it anymore. It feels like if he was just like, whatever, man, he should have done you remember Jim Calhoun?
Yeah.
Not a dime back.
Yeah.
Do that, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
thanks for watching my pockets, broke
Okay.
boy. Like, what do you want? What do you want me to do?
Okay. He started out by saying, and like this is where he went awry. The first thing he went awry. Like you say like, hey, you're welcome to apply for the job, like all those things. Like there's a good little dart back at Tyler from Spartanburg. But when you say, look, I started out and I was the lowest paid head coach in the Power Five, That's still a great job and a great salary. Like
$1 million, you know what I mean?
yeah, that's like going to those convention, like those retreats where it's like all billionaires and being like, he's 99 of the Forbes 100. What's he even doing here? Like, his life is still better than almost everyone on Earth.
He only has one yacht. Gross.
Yes. That guy's life is better than everybody on Earth except 98 other people.
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
He's only Procter. He's not even Procter and Gamble.
Yeah, Dabo saying I was the lowest paid coach. He wasn't making 36. He didn't start at 36K a year and then crawl his way up.
A teaching assistant.
Yeah, crawl his way up to $11.5 million. He certainly did earn every penny he's got by doing what he's done at Clemson. But I think Dabo needs to remember how he did that. Dabo used to be a guy who was kind of fun. He was different. He was loose and out there.
Big personality. And now they're just quoting Bible verses back at each other, which if that's your bag, go for it. But it is just I don't know. I don't know how to put my finger on it other than it's he hasn't quite accepted. Yeah, it's been on me, man. He hasn't done it. From what I've seen. Now, people that have been slobbering over Dabo Swinney's response to this would probably be like, no, he's owned every second of it. He was like, look, appreciate what we've done in the past. Again, you said it. It's not how sports work.
That's not.
It's especially not how college football works.
Let me ask you this, Royden. You are a massively huge Houston Astros fan.
Yeah.
Okay. They did not make the World Series this year.
As I'm well aware, yeah.
Okay.
What's your question?
They did not make the World Series this year. Part of you is well, look, they're still a good team. They'll probably make a run next year. There's, unless they hire a 3-year-old girl as the manager, they should be fine.
They might.
They've got a good front office. Everything works out. They make good decisions. Everything's fine. But there's part of you that's well. You start to see a trend of well, if they start doing the things that they did that lost them the series, then I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, I mean, and there's look, you're dealing with this with any fan base when it's you don't all other teams lose except for two. You know what I mean? I mean, except for one. Every season basically ends in failure for every team.
Yeah.
That's something that it's hard for sports fans, I'm including myself, to grasp that it's most of the time it's bad, but so you got to enjoy the ride while you're there. I think that
and look,
I think the hardest thing to do though is to see the pinnacle of success and then see it dive. Yeah. Or because it feels like when you're not continuing to keep the train on the tracks, that it's just going to go off the rails forever, and you're going to wind up in the Grand Canyon, and then you'll never be able to claw your way out. I know there's no trains around the Grand Canyon, but you get what I'm saying, into a ditch. But it feels when you start to see it dive a little bit, most fans are we'll never get it back. And I think the fan bases that I especially root for, Houston sports, Baylor, when we see it kind of go away, no. Please, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I think Clemson was so down bad. Clemsoning was a thing. They were so down bad for a long time, and they've reached the pinnacle of success. Yeah, there's a little cockiness. There's a little expectation that comes with that. But all of a sudden, it starts to go away, and you're just and fans get scared. I mean, it's genuinely people get frightened that their thing that they've attached their identity to, now I'm getting existential, but the thing that they've attached their identity to, that they root for every Saturday, that they put a lot of investment and time and faith in, their religion basically, all of a sudden isn't the thing that it was promised to be.
Yeah, well, and look, as the coach, you need to expect this.
Yeah.
You need to expect that that's going to be the response when you're 4-4 for the first time in forever. Yes,
especially in South Carolina, that's the thing. Yeah. There's these pockets of where they don't have pro sports. I mean, obviously, the Carolina Panthers are in that region and people root for them and stuff like that.
Atlanta sports are big for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So but especially in these pockets, that's why college football and college sports are so important. This is their thing.
Yeah.
That's it. So you got to expect for the callers to be my grandpappy rooted for this and you're ruining it. And I'm going to jump off a building if you don't do that. And you're just whoa.
Yeah. So you've got to like the fact he's already been mad about this because of the bandwagon fans that he like expectation, outweighs appreciation. Yeah, but you set those expectations, right?
Yeah. That's what you want to have, by the way.
Yeah, you do. Like you don't want to. Okay, fine. Okay, let's set the expectation at 4-4. Correct?
Yeah.
Or at this is barely gonna make a bowl game. Set the expectation there and see if you're still paid $11.5 million. Mm-hmm. Everything is a give and take. I remember a story about a Baylor athlete here, and I was talking to a coach, and they were talking about social media. And look, I know that Baylor does not have the best track record when it comes to people who are outside the norm of what their ideal drawn up definition of a Baylor student is. Like,
right.
You could be LGBTQ plus or whatever. Like you could be in that group, or you could be different. And then when you're different, and you want to express that, you certainly have the right to, but you also have to know that once you open the door, you don't get to decide. It's fame. Fame's the same way. When you open the door to fame and you want to go in, you are no longer in control. The only control you have is when you decide to open the door. Because then the door's out of your hands.
Yeah.
You can only kind of ride the wave. So I was talking to this Baylor coach, and I asked him about certain issues, and they said, look, people need to be who they're going to be happy, but they also need to know, and I tell especially young athletes this, that when you open the door, it doesn't close anymore. It's opened. That's it. So
Colorado's finding that out in real time.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the difference: is Deion's ready for it?
Yeah,
he's ready for it. He's. I'm
saying more the athletes.
Yeah, but he's also there to prepare them for that. He knows it. He knows it. You can't There are some things you can tell, when he's using some of this bravado to be they said this about me. With Deion, that's all. He's just playing mind games. He's ready for it because he's been through it.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and indifferent otherwise. Dabo Swinney needs to know that. Listen, man, $11.5 million, you open yourself up to people asking you questions about these, and you have to answer sometimes what are dumb questions. You do.
I equate it to the Joel Osteen thing. You can't be the most popular pastor in the world and then not open your doors when the city is flooding.
Yeah.
It's just you're gonna have to ride the wave a little bit. No pun intended. But I just think
no,
you're gonna have to really bear the brunts of this and to be well, it's not me.
You've got to step
You're
up.
You're the one out there doing the whole NIL name and image and likeness of God bit. People are now going to take the things, the goofy stuff that you've been saying in the media, the aw shucks mentality, and it's going to go against you.
Yeah.
How you're not prepared for that as, if not the best coach, now one of the best coaches in the sport.
Yeah.
Is crazy to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and part of it is the demagoguery that we give to coaches.
Yeah.
If you look at what's going on at Michigan right now is because Jim Harbaugh believes that there's no consequences for him. So because he believes there's no consequences for him, he'll step over the line, push the envelope as much as he wants because what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot of coaches that think that because Dabo, you heard it, okay, they didn't do that in 150 years before now at Clemson. Yeah, that's true.
But now you've done it.
But you've also proven that it's not impossible. Mm-hmm. So either you were saying you're the only person who could ever do it, and you're not the first coach to win a national championship at Clemson, Dabo. Danny Ford did that as well. So there's another person who did it. Now he's not he's rolling back in to do it, but there is someone else who can. So you may point out that, yes, you've done all these great things, but you've also now pointed out that it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And you need to look no further than other programs in the country that have won with multiple head coaches that are not as big as Clemson and won conference titles. We're sitting in a city that has had 3 different coaches in the last 15 years win conference titles or come close to it, or play
be
for
in the game,
be in the game. So, and had he not gone to the NFL, probably would have.
Yeah.
The team that he built did. So
you turn water into wine, and then all of a sudden now, you're giving them grape juice. People are going to ask why they can't have wine anymore.
Yeah.
I think not to continue the biblical narratives here, but I just think that, like, I don't know, eating the trash on this is going to, I don't think it's as cool of a thing as many supporters and especially Twitter acolytes are saying that it is. Like, oh, cut the mixtape for Dabo Swinney. I don't know, maybe there is a point to maybe the highest paid employee in the state shouldn't be stooping down to the level of what you have defined as a single cell organism.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's just, and again, I know I'm being,
Maybe that's reductive of like people.
I know, look, I know I'm making a blanket statement, but Dabo's in the small group of college football coaches that make $11.5 million. I'm in a larger group, but still a relatively small group compared to humankind of people who've had to sit through call-in shows and take calls. And expecting that the calls are going to be good is not a good idea. Now, expecting that the calls are going to be wild is another thing, but that's not the show that Dabo wants. Dabo wants state radio. He wants, hey, coach, I know we're struggling, but what are you going to do? You got a trick play up your sleeve? Like, that's what he wants, but he also has to know that, like, there is a gambit to this. And I can only speak to personal experience. I was producing Art Briles' live call-in show here one night when he still did a live call-in show. And it was during the first couple years where they were instituting this new offense, and the caller said, Coach, if I never see another bubble screen again, it'll be too soon. And this was before RG3 was the quarterback. And then all of a sudden, bubble screens were fun. Yeah. But he was really upset about it. But it was a key part of that Briles offense that they were running was the bubble screen was, it just was, they didn't have the guys that they would a couple years down the line. Mm-hmm. And so Art Briles, well, I thought this was a little bit like, you probably should have just let it go. No more calls. That's what I did. No more calls. So you can either, which I think is maybe the simpler decision. If you decide that you can't take something, then don't do it, because trying to force your way through it is only going to end up in Tyler from Spartanburg's, right? And Dabo, if you're expecting all the calls to be rah-rah when you're 4-4, and maybe that's part of it, is that you've had these great runs and you haven't had Tyler's from Spartanburg's calling you up. Mm-hmm. Or if you did, the rest of the world was like, that guy's an idiot. Well,
one game, everybody's losing their mind.
But when Tyler from Spartanburg, while his call was rude and ridiculous, does make a good point, $11.5 million for 4-4 is not cutting it. And then when you throw a Bible verse back at the Bible guy, and it is pride cometh before the fall, and then the guy, he says pride cometh before the fall, and then the guy spills out pride. I mean, Tyler from Spartanburg, both of these guys were not wrong. That's the thing. They were both wrong in the way they went about it, but
wrong in opposite directions.
Yes, they just went wrong in opposite directions. But yeah, it's a whole thing.
And we'll wrap up here, I imagine. But like the thing about Dabo too, look, man, I'm not burying Clemson. This is a bad year by all standards for what they've said on the program, like we've said, but I'm not burying Clemson. You also got to know, if you're Dabo Swinney, you'll be back in the conversation probably. So
if you do a couple things differently, sure.
So to go off and be like, what have you done for me? This is what I did for you in the past. Don't worry about what we're doing currently and or in the future is silly, because I just kind of think that they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he's thinking that, like, look at all that I've done. It's going to be fine. But in the interim, that doesn't play right.
Well, look, if I was the athletic director, we'd have had a conversation.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, they had a joke about it today when Dabo went to his press conference and said, what's everybody for Halloween? Somebody said, Tyler from Spartanburg. Everybody had a big laugh. It's over. But if I'm the AD, I'm going to,
hey, man, what's up?
I'm going to be like, hey, look, that was not a good look. And I will tell you all the reasons why. And the first thing I would have started with is like, yeah, I know that you worked your way up from lowest paid coach to second highest paid coach, and nobody is doubting your American ingenuity and hard work. But the lowest paid Division I football coach, even in 2004, is really, really good job.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic
is
job.
$2,004 too.
Here's the thing. If you told your parents, hey, Mom and Dad, Pa, I just got the head coaching job at Clemson, they're telling everyone.
Yeah.
They're proud. They're thinking like, oh, I bet we're going to get a nice vacation out of this. Like all those
Might get a
things.
car,
Yeah.
little Buick.
Yeah. All those things. Oh, we're so proud of our son. He can finally do these
They
things.
might go in the local newspaper, Paul.
And you could have only had that job for 4 years at your low salary, and people would have still thought like, man, that's good.
Yeah.
You could have still been pretty much set up for life.
You did the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even if you get fired, people are like, oh, well, to me, the best position to be in is the fired head football coach of the university. We said this on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, other than your pride, but again,
Most of those guys do have that like weird sense of pride where it's, I got to keep doing this thing.
yeah, because you're a competitor.
Yeah.
I get it. When we come back, great matchups in the Big 12 this week that will decide for some teams who is still in the conference race and who is not. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Royden Ogletree, back after he was in San Antonio a couple weeks before that,
Austin,
and then he was in Austin. Okay. Then he was in Scotland.
Same place, actually.
Same place.
When you really like look at it,
Yeah.
same place. We both speak English, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
They have a lot of festivals just back to back to back in Austin.
yeah. No,
Or
they do.
in Scotland?
No, they actually kind of do. They have like apparently like the biggest. No one cares, but they have like the biggest like arts festival in the UK there that we like just missed or something like that.
The only time off of festivals in Austin is just so they can change the signage.
Yeah,
Like there's
To
like two
resod the
there's
ground.
like 2 weeks off to like do all those things and change the signs, and then it's just a new thing.
Weed guy has to reload.
Yeah, like all the like everybody's, okay, we're out of, we got to order more briskets at the barbecue places, like all these things.
Slaughter the fatted calf. We got
all those
We got
things.
ACL coming again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's ACL and just like
South by Southwest.
South by Southwest, and there's like things in the middle of it too. Where
My
like,
buddy's Dan Film Festival in his backyard.
yeah, I mean, but they have so many different things. So yeah, maybe Scotland is the Austin of Europe.
You know what? I'm putting it together. Probably. I'm gonna pitch that to the Edinburgh Council and see if they really enjoy that.
Yeah, a lot of people who are there whose band's gonna make it.
They're like, first of all, where's Austin?
Okay, this week in the Big 12, Royden, there are 1, 2, 3 games that directly affect who could be playing in the conference title game. Surprisingly enough, one of them is not TCU and Texas Tech, which is Thursday night.
Yeah, that may come up.
I thought early in the year that would be, like, at this point of the year, that could be a swing game for either team. And right now, it's kind of a swing game for either team in if you're going to a bowl at all at Texas Tech, or what bowl you're probably going to wind up in if you're TCU.
It's also like a gambler's nightmare too. So anybody looking to lose money on a Thursday night, like that's what it is. Texas Tech and TCU may come up in our third segment of underperformance.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. So Kansas State and Texas, Bedlam for the final time, at least that we know of, and Kansas at Iowa State. All 6 of those teams involved in those games have a reasonable shot at winding up in Arlington in a month.
It is shocking to me I mean, watching them play, I kind of get it now, but it is shocking to me that Iowa State is still in this thing. After like the gambling fiasco they haven't even played a snap, and like their quarterback wasn't even
and their running back
like, was gone.
A couple of their guys, yeah.
Their defense is nasty, and the fact that probably the best job that
Matt Campbell.
I was going to say Dan Campbell. No, Matt Campbell has done in a while in Iowa State. So but that defense is nasty, and like the fact that they're still in it is a credit to the coaching and that.
Now, granted, this is a huge one for them because look, you're playing Kansas at home.
Yeah,
you need to defend your home field, and you have after that you've got BYU, which should be a winnable game, even though it's on the road. But then you've got Texas at home and Kansas State on the road. So they like
it feels like 4 or 5 games in a row. Was that 4? 4 games in a row where they're just gonna teams are gonna kill each other on the field.
Yeah, and Iowa State is gonna have to. And again, it all starts this week. Like Iowa State and Kansas are in. There's no more room for error unless like the other games everybody starts trading losses here. But I do think we are getting into territory where the Big 12 might knock each other out of the college football playoff.
Yeah, it seems to me that like even though they lost, they could very well lose to Oklahoma State, who I said this about Iowa State, but Oklahoma State, what? Like when did that? Are they all of a sudden 6-2? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, the South Alabama game would have been a season ender for a lot of teams. Like, and I say a season ender.
But they don't have a quarterback. Like, how do they?
Yeah, and you think like, okay, well, this is how if you're a fan of Oklahoma State, you think that's just how the season's going to go. Yeah. This is a reset season. They really got really rated in the transfer portal. Now they added in the transfer portal and looked like they made some good value adds. Maybe not superstars, but good value adds that they've had. But Mike Gundy, I think also part of it is that coaching staff, and as crazy as Mike Gundy can be sometimes, he's also become a pretty practical guy. I don't think he was ever sitting in his office thinking like this is a CFP team.
Right.
But he knew that if he could point things in a certain direction, that they could at least contend for the conference title. And that's what they're doing right now. They have one conference loss.
It kind of feeds into the theory that used to be present that Mike Gundy's just going to win 9 to 10 games every single year.
Well, look, he's a good coach. Now, where I guess you can get frustrated with him is, if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, like why have they not gotten over that finish line yet? But the good news for that is you've got one of the most consistent coaches in the country who doesn't appear to be going anywhere, and the playoffs about to be 12 teams. Mm-hmm. So maybe that will help them get over the hump.
You just do the Kansas State thing like that they did for a millennia. You just prod, win 6 games, 7 games, 9 games. Oh, we just rolled off a 12-win season. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It seems to me that is
there are places that I think most of the Big 12 kind of has to be like that now. Especially the new Big 12. It's like, look, your baseline should be probably 7 wins. Like if you're 7-5 every year on a bad year, then you're still going to bowl games, and then you just need a couple of pieces to get you over the top to make your 7-5 somebody else's 7-5. To where all of a sudden you're now 10-2 and they're 7-5 because you've maybe flipped it on those teams. And that's where he kind of lives. Like, okay, his 8-4 winds up being a 10-2, and it's because he found the guys he needed to flip it. But they're still the baseline is good, and I think that's.
Well, does he all of a sudden become the best head coach left in the conference after like these big teams leave?
Climate.
He already might be.
It's really a good group of coaches that are in my opinion that are kind of left over when you talk about Climate and Leipold and Gundy. I don't know what kind of a head coach Deion Sanders is yet. Right. I think he's a good head coach. I don't know if he's
discounting the other teams.
I don't know if he's a great head
Utah.
coach. Now look, Utah has a great head coach. Kyle Whittingham is a fantastic, great head coach. Kenny Dillingham and Jed Fish look like they're on the rise. Yeah, that they're going to be good. And then I think all the rest of it, like Gus Malzahn's a good head coach. He's got skins on the wall.
Sonny Dykes the only one to make a championship game. So.
Yeah, so they've got good coaches. Yeah, they've got good coaches in the league. Look, Dave Aranda was coaching for the Big 12 title 2 years ago. The present situation notwithstanding, they've got some guys who've done some things in the league. So, but Gundy is the one who's been the most consistent over and over and over again. And I think Chris Kleiman's probably headed down that road. It appears that Lance Leipold, if he doesn't leave Kansas, is also headed down that road
Building
because
new
he was
stadiums and
because
stuff.
he was a ridiculously consistent head coach the other places he was. So he knows how to do it. I actually think if you're a program that's looking for a new head coach this year and you're not a behemoth, if Nick Saban retired, they couldn't go and find the great Division II head coach who's won 9 national titles. They could not sell that to those people. They're going to have to go hire a big fish. But if you're like a Kansas, why not do that?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, look, Iowa State did the same thing. Even though Matt Campbell had been at Toledo, they saw enough of him at Toledo to go, okay, he can win at the FBS level. But we knew he could win anyway because he came from Mount Union. So like we knew that. When on his way up. So
had success for running a program. Just back to the game. OU is a 6-point favorite on the road. I don't like that at all.
No.
I know they really laid an egg coming down the stretch in that game against Kansas and a backup quarterback. But I mean, Jason Bean's not a normal backup quarterback. But I still kind of believe in Oklahoma. I'm not ready to bury them after one loss. You shouldn't, obviously. But being a 6-point favorite in the final thing on the road, the final Bedlam on the road, feels like a trap.
Oh, I think so. And especially since Oklahoma State is, especially the last 2 games, if you compare who's playing better overall, Oklahoma State's been playing better. They've had less problems in the last couple weeks. Now, I still
don't trust Alan Bowman, but he's played.
But you're going to have to throw a lot of stuff out the window when it comes to this.
There'll be some weird plays.
There's going to be some weird
somebody's
things.
going to fumble when they're not supposed to, or
Well, I mean, if you remember a couple years ago, Caleb Williams Bedlam, Oklahoma really had no business being in that game after the way that Oklahoma State kind of pushed him around for a while, and then Caleb Williams just went all Caleb Williams. So weird things happen.
I kind of have a feeling that Oklahoma State, I don't know this to be true or anything, but they've been in a couple of they beat the mess out of Cincinnati, but everybody's kind of been doing that this year. But they were in a shootout with West Virginia. I kind of feel like they're going to come out and punch Oklahoma in the mouth early on, and they're going to have to make responses, which is how college football continues to go.
I would think the biggest thing Oklahoma has to do is you cannot let Ollie Gordon keep doing what he's doing. If you can contain that, you're going to have to force Alan Bowman to be the difference in the game.
Yeah,
that's how they're going to win the game for sure. And while their defense is good, I'm not sure if it's I'm sure they're not sure if it's let's keep Ollie Gordon to 86 yards.
Venable's supposed to be the defensive guy, and it just isn't. They're better. They're definitely better than they were last year because obviously they got some guys in there, but they're just not where I think that Venables envisions that they will be or should be.
And look, I think he's shown that he's the guy who can get him there.
Yeah.
But it's only been a year. And again, college football is different because the transfer portal exists. And so you have to readjust your expectations on things year to year. Kansas State and Texas is really intriguing to me in that, Kansas State's loss to Oklahoma State doesn't really look that bad now.
No,
their loss to Missouri doesn't look that bad at all.
Missouri's 7-1.
Yeah,
right?
Missouri is 7-1 and had to beat them on a 60-yard field goal. So that game,
thick kicker.
Yeah, so that game doesn't look bad. So while Kansas State is only ranked 25th, this is a team who has a better resume than maybe 10 teams in front of them in the poll.
They have beat the mess out of TCU and Houston in back-to-back weeks, 3 points, 0 points.
Yeah. Their defense is humming. Now, they're not going to probably do that to Texas. If they do,
no.
Something's been going on. You need to find out what they're feeding. Chris Kleiman has changed them diet-wise.
Texas on their backup quarterback. I like Malik Murphy. I think he's dynamic. He was throwing moon balls in that game, too, and hoping that they would come down. They were bringing down ice with him. So, maybe they open it up for him a little bit more. Trust him a little bit more than another week with the starters in this offense. I do think inexperience is going to be the great equalizer. Not saying that Quinn Ewers has that much more experience, but I think if Quinn Ewers in this game,
18 games more.
Yeah, 18 games more. I think, but I think if Quinn Ewers in this game, the 6-point favorite makes sense for Texas at home. It may be even more. I don't necessarily trust that. Considering that Texas has had problems with Kansas State, right? Historically.
Yeah, they've won the last 3, but they've always been kind of a bugaboo.
Yeah,
the Sunflower State teams have been kind of a headache.
Well, Kansas State is just a headache for everybody.
I think here's the thing. I think the day that Texas decided to join the SEC was the second time that Kansas beat them. Was like, no, we can't. Look,
we can't keep doing this. Can't see these guys every single year.
If I lose to Mississippi State, I can reconcile that with my with my brain, but I can't lose to a basketball school. That was their thing. Now Kansas is starting to stop being just a basketball school. That's for sure. Yeah. Lance Leipold's got them going there, but yeah, I think this one it's going to be interesting because everybody in the country has shown themselves to be vulnerable except for Michigan right now.
Yeah.
Every single team has looked vulnerable at times except for Michigan, and it's because Michigan has not been challenged yet, and they probably won't be until next week, and I'm not even sure they're going to be challenged then against Penn State. So
you don't think this, I mean, we're going off the rails of the Big 12 matchup, but you don't think this sign stealing thing is going to like affect them at all mentally, like with the investigation going on?
No.
Oh, that's fair.
Because
I get it, but like
because when you don't believe you've done anything wrong and you fear nothing, and you're the mouthpiece of the team, Jim Harbaugh can walk in and be like, he can just use his motivation. They say we're only winning because we're stealing signs. That's on. They're criticizing you as players.
Yeah,
and that's
they don't believe in you or your family.
Yeah,
like, what?
Yeah. That's what he'll do. Even though like the whole narrative around that is like, yeah, I don't know why you're even doing it when you've got the best players in the country. Like seems like a lot of budgetary expenditures you don't need to do that you could just
make your Venmos private, folks. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I don't know. 6-point favorite, 11 a.m. kickoff for Texas at home. I think they come away with it. I think this continues to be the year probably for Texas. Honestly, their team is awesome, but as much as it pains me to admit, but like Kansas State, I just like what they do, man. I've always liked what they do. And Will Howard Kansas State now throws the ball. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, Kansas State can throw, and then they have a quarterback who is as fast as anyone in the entire conference, at Avery Johnson, when he rolls out there. So they figured out a 2-quarterback system that works magically, and usually those things don't. Yeah. So again, credit to Chris Kleiman. They've lost both their games by a combined 11 points. They lost by 8 to Oklahoma State, and of course the last second field goal. So this is not a team like when, oh man, Kansas State's fallen off. Like, yeah, they lost a game to a pretty darn good Mizzou team at the buzzer on a 60-yard field goal, and they lost to Oklahoma State when Oklahoma State found their identity.
Yeah, Oklahoma State team that should probably be ranked going into this matchup, but
Yeah, but I mean, there's only so many spots, and for some reason, you got to keep USC in there. But don't get me started on that.
Are they still trying to defend people? Have they figured it out yet?
Look, here's my problem. Look, Kansas State is 25th. They just threw North Carolina right on out, and because USC managed to come back and beat Cal, they left them there. And maybe throw Oklahoma State in there a little bit. Maybe they've earned that with their run lately. Kansas beats Oklahoma, and you're like, okay, you can be 22nd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what you can be. And far be it for me to be like a stumper for any conference. I don't really do that.
Right.
But I do think it's funny because USC is Caleb Williams and his buddies. That's how they're winning right now.
Caleb Williams and friends.
Yeah, that's what it is. They
need him to be perfect every single week.
Yeah.
And when he hasn't been, they've lost.
And Kansas is winning with their backup quarterback. Kansas State's winning with
dose quarterback.
With 2 quarterbacks. And Oklahoma State's gone on a winning streak with a guy who no one else wanted. Like, literally, they're like, I guess we'll take Alan Bowman. Like, whatever. Right. Like, we have to. We need somebody.
We need a warm body.
He's the best. He's the best available.
I don't want to make this the poop on Alan Bowman hour, but
honestly, like, you've seen American Pie, right?
Yeah.
He's the band geek from American Pie.
Oh no.
Like, we're like, okay, I'm gonna ask her because she's been the nicest person to me in this whole thing. Then it winds up being a beautiful thing, but
one time in Stillwater.
But that's who he is. he's Allison Hannigan in American Pie, and it's worked out.
And it turns out great.
It turns out great. It turned out fine. But I'm pretty sure that they're like, I guess. I mean, you know what?
Right.
I'm not going to not go to the prom. So, yeah, I think that's what it is. But it's worked out. When we come back, which coaches have done the worst job this year? Royden's got a few.
I got a few. I got a list.
Good deal. I might just respond to your list.
Okay.
I'm not even having opinions on this.
Sure.
This is the triple option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Jack has suggested I just do like a bonus episode one day of here's why I'll tell you radio callers are bad.
Just dust off the comment. You're gonna catch me at the Comedy Cellar. I got a whole hour.
I could write
radio callers.
I could write a whole sketch comedy show about it. Like honestly,
yeah.
And then like some of it
plays to 5 people, but I mean it.
I would do it at like a radio convention, and it would kill. It would kill the radio convention. Like, oh yeah, I've had that one before. But our last topic of the day, as we wind down, Royden, here on this Halloween, are you dressing up for Halloween?
Yeah, right now I'm dressed as Slim Shady.
Okay, good for you. That's a good costume. I every year dress as someone who does not like Halloween.
This is your bit. This is one of your bits, and along with parades. And you know what? I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, since I've gotten married though, I've been told I have to welcome trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
Which is not something I did before. I would, in fact, turn all the lights off in my house and go sit upstairs and watch television.
With a gun.
Because nobody comes and rings your doorbell when
your lights are off.
I would see like my Ring camera of people like walking up and then just going by and I'd be like, all right, well, I'm fine with that. But
we moved into one of the the bedroom neighborhoods where it's like 10,000 houses or whatever, but everybody kind of sits out on their lawn and kids walk down the sidewalks and get candy. We were kind of in the back of the neighborhood. In the front of the neighborhood, there people kind of trickle down and then be like, thanks, and you'd be like, I'm giving you candy, and it turns out they were like giving parents like margaritas at the front of the neighborhood. So by the time that they got us, we looked like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
and like, all I got is this stupid candy. They're giving away full Twix bars up at the top. I would
not be upset if that's how our neighborhood worked, but it is not.
Yeah.
So I can be social, but it's just, of course, when I was single, like I didn't want people to have expectations because sometimes if Halloween falls on a like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
I'm not there.
I'm not there. Like I wasn't there. I wasn't going to be there. I was working. So anyway, but who are the coaches, Royden? You've made a list who have done the worst job this year.
I titled this on the notes. Coaches doing a bad job.
Okay.
Just so the research that I've done.
It's at like the Blue Harvest for the script. Like that's what you're going to call it. So it's a secret.
Bad being capitalized. Coaches doing to emphasize how this. Number 1, Mel Tucker.
I think we can present that one without comment. But yes, he wasn't doing a good job before he did what he did.
Doing the whole coaching thing. He wasn't doing good. This is. I just want to go down. We were talking about the Big 12. McGuire, Aranda, Holgerson.
I think it's all different reasons. I think Joey McGuire said this to Smokey when he interviewed him last, was I think he feels a little bit guilty for running the hype train a little bit too fast.
They did it.
Yeah. And he asked the players if he put him in that position. And I think the players let him off the hook a little bit because I think the players wanted it. Mm-hmm. The problem is that, and I don't think Joey's a guy who's, he is all gas. Like it's just.
Yeah, I get it.
And
but they're also 3-5.
Yeah, they're 3-5. I think he's going to wind up being a very, very good college head football coach, but he's also somebody who's going to have to trip and fall to learn to pick himself up a little bit. Well, and this is probably that. And he just better make the necessary corrections faster because he's got a fan base that has grown impatient. And so impatient, and they still love him. I don't think they're mad at him. I think they're probably disappointed. But they've got one of the better NIL situations for a school
in the country.
And especially a school that's not been wildly successful. Their situation's better. And here's the kind of ironic thing about Clemson is Dabo Swinney can complain about all he wants, but they kind of set up one around him against his will that's really good. Yeah. They have a good situation there, but Texas Tech is better than almost anybody's. And they haven't done anything like Clemson has or
Now they've gotten big time recruits, including one right down the street.
Micah Hudson,
Yeah, who's awesome. I don't know if you've watched him in high school yet, but he's incredible. But I think they're going to be okay, which is why I had a tough time actually including McGuire on this list.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like back-to-back losses to BYU, Kansas State, and West Virginia in there.
Yeah.
It's just not been great, especially when you've been tweeting cactuses every single day.
I will give Dana Holgorsen a slight pass.
I won't.
In that it is his first, Dana Holgorsen, Scott Satterfield, Gus Malzahn, and Kalani Sitake, I think should be allowed for. There was no way their rosters are going to be able to compete for the league title this year. Now,
Holgerson's been bad regardless, though.
Yeah.
In the past couple of years.
Yeah. So he wasn't great at the end.
Yeah.
Now they did close strong last year, but he wasn't great at the end of, and he had Clayton Tune and Tank Dell last year.
Right.
So,
he's also rubbing people in that program in that city the wrong way.
Yeah.
With his all shucks or not all shucks. He's not all shucks, but he's the more F it attitude that he has.
Yeah.
I
think
that's why I didn't include Cincinnati and the other school, UCF Malzahn, who's not been great, but including that meltdown to Baylor, but UCF, BYU, Cincinnati. I didn't include them. The only reason I would include Holgorsen is because it's been a consistently bad program since he's been there mostly.
Well, I mean, they've had their peaks, but they're in a valley right now. And I don't think he's nuts about the way things work now. Not that he wouldn't do them, but I think that it stresses him out. And Holgorsen has always kind of struck me as a guy, and even when we've talked to him, like Cal from Ricky Bobby, where it's why do you have the TV and the stereo on at the same time? Because I like to party.
Yeah. Vodka Red Bull, I like to party.
Yeah, that's kind of how he is. And Dave Aranda's is as perplexing as a thing that I think I've ever seen, in that there is no doubt in my mind that he's one of the most brilliant football minds in the country. There is no doubt in my mind that he will eventually, given the time, because he looks at things very scientifically, figure out how to consistently be a good head football coach. The problem is I don't think he moves fast enough. I think that's where being so unbelievably smart right now, he has not found the accelerator on that. And that's the problem, is that he's well aware, I think, of the fact that they've missed on talent.
Yeah.
And they also, I think, got caught up. We've talked about it before, in this void of, NIL and transfer portal. And they not that they thought it was going to be a fad. I don't think they were prepared for it to be as big as it was. They thought it was maybe it's just going to start out slow, and then when people figure it out. No. It was a tidal wave.
Yeah,
and
we got oil money and it's coming in,
Yeah, exactly. So they weren't ready for that. So they've been caught up in all that. And so we'll see what the consequences for that are eventually. Because if there is a very reasonable shot. They're playing Houston this week. That's two of the worst teams in the league. But that they go 1-7 at home this year. That is something that's very hard to come back from.
Yeah, and it's hard to sell going forward. Having to rebuild from being at the top is a weird position to be in. I just think, yeah, you said it. It's like he's trying to do. It's like he feels like he got a research grant to like go to Antarctica and drill into the ice, and he has all the time in the world when like fans are like, "Hey, no, this paper's due tomorrow."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he doesn't know how to.
Listen, I'm gonna find the woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
You don't worry about it. Like, no, we found it. We found it.
Write it up.
Yeah,
get it together.
We just want to know, what do you have right now?
Yeah,
yeah.
Honorable mention. I mentioned Sonny Dykes. Hang with me. I think a lot of people outside of Fort Worth knew that all the talent went away, and I think a bunch of people in Fort Worth would admit this as well, that the most talent that they've ever had, probably in program history, that went to the NFL. But following up a game where you got to the championship, granted you got embarrassed in that championship, with a 4-4 season, you may or may not get to a bowl game. Probably will get to a bowl game.
Yeah.
The downward slope of that, like the crash from being, hey, we're going to the championship, to, oh no, what's happening?
Yeah.
Kind of tough. Also, making some of the hires that he's made. I will leave that where it is.
I don't think I don't think he had the personnel for that to work.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, like, because his offense, Kendall Brown, I'll just say it. I'm not going to leave it there. Kendall Brown's offense and Garrett Riley's offense are different. Mm-hmm. Garrett Riley wound up in a situation where Dabo Swinney doesn't have the personnel to run his offense.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He needs, and it's mostly because of the receivers. It's not because of anything else. Like,
they need speed guys.
Yeah. Look, he won a ton of games with Max Duggan and got the most out of Max Duggan that anybody ever got out of Max Duggan. And Cade Klubnik is talented. Like, there's no doubt that Cade Klubnik is talented. But they're not running the right offense for any of those guys there. It just doesn't work. And they need, like, when you go to Clemson, you think you're going to have DeAndre Hopkins and T. Higgins and guys like that. And then when you just don't, like, you get there and you're like, all right, where's the next big wide receiver stud? And they're like,
in high school.
He's in high school. He's in high school, and you're like,
next year.
That doesn't help me today. So anyway, all right, who else you got?
Real quick, nobody's really talking. I mean, Jimbo Fisher. We talked about it at length.
Yes,
got to do more. He's
done
to do more.
He's done, like, I will not only tell you he's done a bad job. He's done a horrible job.
Yeah,
horrible job. Coaching.
Gonna have a bad time. Pizza French fry. You're gonna have a bad time. Nobody's really talking about this one. Maybe I don't know why. Sam Pittman.
Well, yes, he's not done great. I think he's going to get fired.
What's happening there?
Yeah,
they're 2-6.
They're just kind of there.
Yeah,
and the SEC is, like, even for Vanderbilt, it's not a conference where you can just be kind of there. Even Vanderbilt's like, look, we understand that, like, we're not going to contend every single year, but you've got Clark Lee, who's there right now at Vanderbilt, saying, I want to build this team to win the SEC. Like, that's my goal, as opposed to coaches like, listen, I got a bunch of smart guys. Sometimes they're not going to be able to block and tackle, lay off my back. Sam Pittman, and to me, it's kind of a bummer because he's at his alma mater.
Yeah.
He seems to be a very affable gentleman, like somebody that the fans could get behind, but it's just not working.
Coach that I would probably want to have a beer with. Yeah, it is going awry in Arkansas, and they're not gonna like that very much.
No.
Finally, Brian Ferentz.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to worry. Like, he's got no.
What happened?
I'll say his father's not doing a good job either. I think that when the athletic director has to fire the offensive coordinator and says in her statement that it's not something that she believes that she's supposed to do and wouldn't do normally, is telling the head coach, like, look, you could have solved this problem and now I had to.
Yeah.
And she's new. She's interim right now. That's the message you're sending. I think there's a really good shot that Iowa has a new head coach next year.
Really?
I do.
That's crazy.
Well, they have to ask Kirk Ferentz, who do you think Iowa is going to be in the Big 18?
Yeah.
Who do you think it's going to be? Because you can make it through the Big 10 West, doing what you've done. You've done a lot of time. But guess what, Kirk? The Big 10 West doesn't exist anymore. It's over. You know, like you
can't keep going.
I used to work with a guy who we would make fun of him because he couldn't edit audio, and he worked in radio. And he was like, I used to be I used to be the best with a razor blade and a grease pencil. And I went, you know what? There were guys who were really awesome horse and buggy drivers, and then rendered useless when the motor car came around. So, again, learn how to drive or get out of the way.
I just Brian Ferentz literally
That
had,
person, by the way, was not Smokey. I'm just throwing out that was not Smokey.
Brian Ferentz literally had the equivalent of like having a sales job for college football, where it's like, brother, you got to hit a quota, man, and he's just like, nah,
Yeah, quota.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, man.
Yeah.
I love working from home.
Yeah, I remember getting like, hey, you're like dragging behind. Like, look, I still got 4 games.
Yeah,
I got it. I've got a big sale coming.
yeah.
I got a big sale coming.
It's down the road. You want to have a beer?
Yeah, and then what Brian Ferentz doesn't realize, he thinks he's working for like the mom and pop, and all of a sudden he's working for Alec Baldwin and Glengarry Glen
Dad, what do you mean? What happened? That's what I had envisioned. But I don't want to go home.
Well, now,
Sorry, Brian.
Now he's going to be like, I left you money. Dad, I want wings.
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's not enough. All right, Royden, always great to see you again. Thanks for returning from Scotland.
Oh yeah, it was all me. I
was worried that you weren't going to come back.
Man, are my arms tired?
That you would just like, you know what? I like kilts. I'm gonna live in a place where they're more socially acceptable.
Underrated.
I'll believe it. I'll believe
Yeah.
it. Especially if they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like if you just went to a place here and there was a guy who learned how to make haggis when he was there
No,
for a
thank
week.
you.
No, but if you're over there,
Yeah.
like that's kind of how I feel about many like weird delicacies. If I'm in the place where they're from, I will try them.
I don't like eating
I am-
boudin in Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Exactly. If I'm in a sushi restaurant in New Mexico, like, you know what? I'll skip it. I'll just get the fried shrimp. Well, you guys can do that better. All right. That's going to do it for us. We've got Eric Morris, UNT head coach, on the show today. Mac Rhodes on the show today. And Tim Brando on the show today. So stick around for that. That's coming up at 3 o'clock. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.